camera guy in this movie lost his eye for this movie.
I'm guessing if they settled out, it was for less than 18 mil, which King probably had. It was probably easy to pay somebody off at that point in his life.
You lost an eye making this movie.
No, I'm not from the.
Not The Shining.
Was Ranuzzi was his name? Anthony Ranuzzi.
Yeah, it was an Italian. But dude, you didn't lose it making The Shining. That'd be one thing to talk about in the bar. Like, hey, buddy, what's with the eye patch? Cinematographer on The Shining.
I was Mo Green's. I was Mo Green's extra in The Godfather. When they shoot him through his glasses, I lost my eye. Oh, awesome! Lost your eye?
Apocalypse Now. I was the Oh wow, no shit. Would you lose? No, I lost my eye on Maximum Overdrive. Which, by the way, they say in the movie. Remember her?
That's another my pet peeve.
I forgot to mention that. She says, "You know what? Things are great."
Kate and I get huge kicks out of when
no,
they mention
Cody does too. Every time they mention the name of the movie in the movie, but dude, hers is best. Like everything was fine around here until all the machines went into Maximum Overdrive.
Dude, I saw the worst one ever last weekend. Just random tangent.
I had to totally stop and just give the ooh.
She said it. She said it.
Kate had told me to watch Skyfall because I hadn't seen it yet.
Great movie.
It was good, and it got me on a James Bond kick. So I'm going back watching all these old Roger Moore ones, and I watch.
When she's like, "That guy's got thunderballs."
That was a different movie.
Oh, that was a different movie. Sorry.
It was
He's gonna moonrake us over this whole damn. Oh no.
It was in a.
I have a view to a kill.
Well, that's what they said. It was a view to a kill.
Oh, they do say it.
And they're up. It's Christopher Walken and Grace Jones are up in his blimp, his Mac Zorin blimp, flying over San Francisco, and they're talking about how they're planning to flood Silicon Valley. And she leans over and she goes, "What a view!" And he leans in and goes, "To a kill." And I was like, oh God, that's awful. That's just awful.
Great Bond movie, though.
I was like, that's worse than when Tom Sizemore says Saving Private Ryan. It's just terrible.
Oh, does he say? I never saw that movie.
If only we could, because maybe Saving Private Ryan's the one good thing we could do out of this mess.
Did you do it in the theater when Saving Private Ryan? Like, you said it.
No, I got it walked out.
I do walk out when they say the name of the movie in the movie.
Maybe if we can stop these children of the corn.
We'll get to Children of the Corn here in a minute. But I remember sitting in the theater and they're like, "This is Ghoulies 4." And I'm like, "Come on, we're out. Get your popcorn. We're fucking out of here."
When I was hungover on that snow day watching Total Recall, it's like, she said he didn't remember jack shit. That's an hour. An hour from now, he could have Total Recall.
Yeah, never say the name of your movie.
This apocalypse now will haunt us all. It just doesn't make any sense.
Stop it.
But yeah, the DP lost his eye during this movie, which is deplorable.
Well,
that it could happen.
Depending on when they shot the lawnmower scene, that explains a lot.
What, the drug abuse and the...
No, just like some scenes were like really good and just beautiful, and then other scenes were...
Oh, no, there were scenes with...
White balance was off, focus was
you had
off.
mentioned some camera stuff, but there's some close-up shots of Emilio and her in bed where his face is completely out of focus. And I guess it's looking... You know, I don't know if it kept working. I don't know if it kept working with
it's
one
not
eye.
my fault. I can only see 2/3 of the.
It looks fine to me.
Meanwhile, Stevens over there looks good.
Everything on the left side of this frame is out of focus. No, it's fine. Are we good?
The DP saw his right eye. Kate was seeing on his left together. That's what you got.
I don't know when that happened in the process. Maybe
it's horrible.
It is horrible.
And so are we.
But you know what? He's a sad millionaire now. So
I don't know. I can look out of the right side. What do you think, Steve? What? It's good. Wrap.
Yeah.
When's lunch?
Well, one of the things that it was funny because, and this might just be my sensitivity coming through. The one thing that I really hated about...
You're sensitive.
I am. And I really hated the portrayal of Southern people in this movie. It was just so... God damn it, Bubba! I'm gonna get...
See, that's,
everybody
that is
from
King because he's a dyed-in-the-wool Yankee. And he thinks
he loves Maine, and it's surprising that they didn't have this movie in Maine.
That's why I actually kind of caught that. I was like, you know, I wonder if it's
for his movies
deal.
that aren't done in Maine. I'm going to throw a real obscure one out here, but it's another great example. Remember the Mangler? No, not the Mangler. Night Shift or Graveyard Shift with the rats.
Yeah,
it was a Southern factory, and the was it the guy from Tremors, Fred
Ward.
Was Fred Ward? Was he the foreman there? But he's a horrible Southern guy. Like Yeah, he I think he's guilty portraying
If
Southerners.
you can
as-
stomach one of his 1,000-page novels, he wrote that one 11/22/63 a few years ago, where the guy finds
the Kennedy book?
Yeah, he finds that like it's present day, and it's like this 35-year-old school teacher, and he finds out that this diner that he eats in, the guy has a time machine in the back of it, where you walk through a door and it transports you back to 1959. And so the whole thing is he thinks he can stop the Kennedy assassination, so he goes to Texas. And King's portrayal, I think Colleen gets a shout out in there. But the whole thing is he and it's supposed to be Dallas Fort Worth in '63, which I imagine is a lot different today. But he actually says in like the foreword or the afterward, he says something about, it's like, you might be able to tell from reading this I'm not from Texas, and I couldn't be prouder of that fact. So he's very much a dyed-in-the-wool Yankee. He's got this idea that we're all still down here fighting the Civil War.
From the diner owner to the truckers.
Liberal cokehead.
I mean,
Go back to Massachusetts.
We should do a podcast from Massachusetts. I hear they got good wings.
But no, that was one of the
No,
things
but you
that
know what?
walked
I'm
away.
with you
I
on
was
that,
just
Doug.
like,
I
come
mean, it
on,
was-
dude.
Mitt Romney loving pinko liberal.
God
I
damn
read-
it, Joey.
You know what Maximum Overdrive should be a good example. It's not, but where it I think capsulizes a lot of his other stuff. I read an interview with him. I was telling you guys earlier. It was an interview by a guy named Bob Stewart. BHOB is how he spells Bob.
Bob.
So I don't know that dude's not from Austin.
I don't know if it's
Same
Bob. Yeah,
fucking
he's,
thing.
you know what? He's probably totally from Austin. It's Bahab.
Robert R.
Or it's Hob.
O-O-H.
It's Hob. The first B is silent.
It's silent.
Anyway, Bahab Stewart did a really good interview with him. I'm trying to give the guy a shout out, but come on, spell your name right. Where he said he comes to the King. He's like, you know what? It seems to me, reading your books and leading into Maximum Overdrive, that Stephen King takes the most preposterous situation you can dream up. Imagine the most preposterous situation you can possibly imagine, and then you set out to convince people, the reader, that it's plausible. And that applies to almost everything Stephen King does. And Stephen King said, yes, you nailed it. That's what I do. No bigger example than my favorite short story of all time, The Mist. I got this idea for setting the situation in a grocery store where these huge bugs, he loved Empire of the Ants and these old sci-fi creature features. He's like, where can I put these people in the most normal, everyday situation in a grocery store and bring in these huge fucking bugs and make people believe it?
Well, and the idea for it came, he said that there had been, it was same situation. He was young. He'd published his first couple books. They had one kid, and he said they had him and his wife had a house on the lake, and they went to a grocery store, and he said, and it was after there'd been a huge storm and people didn't have power for a day. And he said, and I was just in there to buy hot dog buns. He said, I'm in there with my 5-year-old son, and I'm seeing all these people in these long lines. I mean, he said that's one of his pet peeves when people ask him, how do you come up with this idea? He said, I don't know, they just happen. He said, I'm in the store, these long lines of people, tourists, and I'm there with a roll of hot dog buns, and I'm thinking, all of a sudden I think, what would happen if some giant prehistoric creature came through the window and started killing everybody?
That's what he does. He thinks of just the most preposterous situation, and then he rolls with it. And that's why The Mist was so fucking good.
I say this, though, and the truck story does it, and the movie does it as well.
Lawnmower, real quick, Lawnmower Man, one of my other favorite short stories.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to when we talk about disappointing cinematic translations of Stephen King's work. Or just entirely misleading in that case. But you look in the ads in the paper for someone to mow your grass. We've all been there. And this dude shows up and immediately strips down naked, starts mowing your grass naked, this fat, greasy bastard, and you're looking out your living room window at this naked guy mowing your grass, you know, and then he gets down on his knees and starts eating.
The mower goes on automatic. He just gets down and eats the
and he
grass.
gets on his knees and starts eating the grass clippings. And you're like, the guy's got green juice dripping down his face. He's naked. It's all over his body. And then you start calling the cops, and all of a sudden the lawnmower kicks in your front door, and this guy comes in.
That yard looked great.
Well, he didn't edge.
Well, no, all his good stories and novels, anything good in horror and sci-fi, he's the best at it in the stories. It puts you in that situation. The ultimate, that's what always sucks me into it. And I say this was a good experience as a story or movie. You think, what would I do? If I were in that grocery store in the mist, what would I do? If I were in this truck stop, what would I do?
He's brilliant in the way that he can put you in that moment, give you something to relate to, whether if you have a kid or a wife or something, or your job. He can get you to where you can relate to that main character.
You mentioned Dawn of the Dead, too.
Why are you giving me the gas face?
Because like one of the
Did you
one
fart?
of the books
fart.
that I remember most from Stephen King, and I can't remember the name of it, was this chick who was like handcuffed to a bed.
Gerald's Game.
Was it Gerald's Game?
Sex toy gone wrong. The husband dies and she's trapped to the bed.
Great. So I'm remembering that because I was put in that situation.
Well, you're remembering one of his least successful novels of all time.
Okay.
Your husband died and left you
Carrie.
Exactly.
Carrie. Everyone knows that freak at high school that was an outcast, who was picked on, who, any day where that man or girl, the boy or girl snapped, was not going to be a shocker because she was completely humiliated every day of her life.
I just like the what would I do if I were there?
What would I do?
You mentioned Dawn of the Dead, perfect situation. I'm in the mall with these people. What would I do?